I was standing at the door, blood still drying on my forehead, clothes torn from the accident I had barely survived. My hands shook as I clutched the small gift bag I had carried all the way for my sister's big day. I thought the nightmare was finally behind me. But then her fiancé's mother looked me up and down with a cold smirk, blocking my way into the brightly lit house. "You aren't welcome here," she said flatly, as if spitting out poison. The words cut deeper than the glass shards that had pierced my skin just hours ago. My own sister, dressed in her engagement gown, stood right behind her, eyes lowered, lips sealed, not saying a word in my defense. I wanted to scream, to demand why, but my throat went dry. I had survived death on the road just to be buried alive in shame at her door. And right there, in that painful moment, something dark snapped inside me. But before I tell you what I did next, I need you to listen closely. This is not just another family drama. It's a story of betrayal, pain, and payback that will leave you questioning every bond you ever trusted. If you believe in standing up after being torn down, if you believe revenge is sometimes the only answer, then watch this story carefully to the very end. And if you're convinced by the time you hear it all, comment and subscribe for more payback stories like this. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. My name is Rachel Morgan. I grew up in Houston, Texas, in a small but close-knit family, or at least, that's what I thought for most of my life. My father, Michael, was a hardworking mechanic who owned a little auto shop downtown. My mother, Linda, was a schoolteacher who believed family was everything. I had only one sibling, my younger sister, Emily. She was 2 years younger than me, but ever since childhood, she was treated like a delicate gem while I was the one expected to carry the family's weight. Don't get me wrong, I loved her. I would fight anyone who tried to hurt her. I remember skipping parties to help her with her school projects, defending her when kids bullied her, even giving up clothes so she could wear something nice to school. I was her shield, her second mother, her best friend. At least, that's what I thought. Life was never easy for us. Dad's business barely scraped by, and sometimes I had to take part-time jobs after high school just to help pay the bills. Emily, on the other hand, was always excused from responsibility. She was the princess of the family, the one everyone protected. But I never complained. That's what you do for family, right? Years later, I got into nursing school while Emily floated through college with little effort. She loved the attention, the parties, the boys. And one day, she introduced us to Daniel, her boyfriend. At first, I thought Daniel was just another smooth-talking guy who would vanish after a few months. But he stayed. He was charming, successful, from a wealthy family, and Emily was over the moon. I was genuinely happy for her, even though something about his smug smile made me uneasy. The truth is, Emily and I had grown apart in those years. She stopped confiding in me, and sometimes I felt like an outsider in my own family. Still, when she announced her engagement, I swallowed all the hurt and decided to be there for her. I saved money to buy her a special necklace she had once admired in a store window. I even volunteered to help with the preparations. She barely thanked me, but I told myself, it's fine, it's her big day. She deserves happiness. Little did I know, that day would almost cost me my life. It happened on the morning of the engagement dinner. I had packed my things, gotten into my old Honda, and started the 3-hour drive to her new city. The roads were slick from an earlier rain, but I wasn't worried. All I wanted was to make it on time, show her my love, and maybe, just maybe, feel like family again. But fate had a twisted plan. Somewhere on the interstate, a huge truck swerved out of its lane, and in a split second, everything changed. I remember the deafening horn, the screeching tires, and the violent crash that spun my car like a toy. Glass shattered, metal twisted. My chest slammed against the steering wheel, and pain exploded in my body. When everything went black, I thought it was the end. But somehow I survived. Strangers pulled me out, my face bleeding, my legs shaking. "You're lucky to be alive," one of them whispered. Lucky? I didn't feel lucky. But I was determined. I couldn't miss Emily's big night. So I limped into that house, still aching, heart still racing from the near-death accident, only to be told by her future mother-in-law that I wasn't welcome. And as I stood there, humiliated and trembling, I noticed something. My sister's eyes. They weren't filled with shock or worry for me. They weren't even filled with sadness. They were filled with something else. Something darker. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't just an accident of fate. This was the beginning of a betrayal far bigger than I could imagine. But what they didn't know was that Rachel Morgan doesn't break. She gets even. I stood frozen at the door, my chest rising and falling as though I was still trapped in the wrecked car. The smell of perfume and roasted chicken floated out from the engagement hall, mixing with the metallic scent of blood still clinging to my skin. Everyone inside was laughing, clinking glasses, celebrating. And there I was, an uninvited ghost, staring at a family that had already buried me alive. Emily wouldn't even meet my eyes. Her fiancé, Daniel, finally stepped forward, his hand slipping around her waist like he was claiming her in front of me. He gave me that same smug smile I had seen the first day we met. "Rachel," he said, voice smooth as oil, "this is Emily's special night. We don't want any distractions." Distractions. That's what I was to them now. I clenched my fist around the gift bag until the paper tore. The necklace inside, something I had worked weeks of overtime to buy, slipped out, hitting the floor with a soft clink. Nobody bent to pick it up. Instead, Daniel's mother's eyes swept over me again, landing on my bloodied sleeve. "Go home," she said coldly. "You'll embarrass her." Something in me cracked open that night. The girl who had given up her own dreams for her family, who had always stood in the shadows, who had nearly died on the road just to show up, that girl died at that door. I turned and walked away, each step heavier than the last. My body screamed from the crash, but my soul screamed louder. I staggered to my car, sat in the driver's seat, and just stared at the steering wheel. My vision blurred with tears until the whole world swam. And then I laughed. A bitter, broken laugh. If they thought I was weak enough to crawl back home and hide, they didn't know me at all. That night, instead of driving home, I checked myself into a motel 2 blocks away. I cleaned my wounds in the cracked bathroom mirror, staring at my own reflection like she was a stranger. Who is this Rachel, this woman who gave everything and got nothing in return? I made a vow in that motel room. Emily may have thought she won that night, standing tall in her white gown beside her rich fiancé. But I knew a secret so dangerous it could burn her whole engagement to ashes. Because the truth was, Daniel had once tried to kiss me. It was a few months back at a family dinner. Emily had left the table to take a call, and Daniel leaned in close, his hand brushing mine, his whisper reeking of whiskey. "You're the prettier sister," he had murmured. My stomach turned, and I shoved him away. I told Emily later, but she laughed it off, said I was imagining things. She chose him over me, over blood. But that night at the motel, as I replayed his smug grin at the door, I realized something. If Daniel could betray her so easily before marriage, what would he do after? That was the weapon I had. That was the truth I would use. The next morning, I drove back to Houston. My parents were waiting, worried, sick. Mom burst into tears when she saw the bruises from the accident, but Dad only asked one question. "Did Emily treat you well?" I couldn't answer. The silence said enough. Days turned into weeks. Emily didn't call, didn't text. Not even to ask if I had survived the crash. That silence burned hotter than any words. But then an invitation arrived in the mail. A gold-embossed card with swirling letters. "You are cordially invited to the wedding of Emily Morgan and Daniel Brooks." My hands shook as I held it. She wanted me there, not as her sister, not as her support, but as a witness. A witness to her victory over me. And in that moment, the vow I had made in the motel sharpened into something deadly clear. I wouldn't just attend the wedding. I would tear it apart. I began gathering every detail I could about Daniel, his business deals, his late-night habits, the women he texted when Emily wasn't looking. And the more I dug, the more filth I uncovered. This man wasn't just a cheater. He was dangerous. One night, I followed him from a distance after spotting his car leaving a downtown bar. He didn't drive home. Instead, he pulled into a deserted warehouse parking lot. My stomach tightened as I watched from the shadows. He stepped out of his car, met with two men in dark coats, and handed them a thick envelope. It wasn't just infidelity. Daniel was laundering money. I had the perfect storm in my hands: betrayal, lies, and now crime. But I wasn't prepared for what happened next. As I turned to leave, thinking I had gathered enough proof, one of the men spotted me. His voice cut through the night like a knife. "Hey, who's there?" Before I could move, a flashlight beam landed on my face. And that was when everything spiraled into chaos. The flashlight burned into my eyes, blinding me. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst out of my chest. For a second, I froze, like a deer caught in headlights, until the man's footsteps thundered toward me. "Grab her," he shouted. I spun on my heel and ran. My legs screamed from the old injuries of the accident, but fear gave me speed. Gravel crunched beneath my shoes as I darted behind a stack of crates, trying to steady my breath. "Don't let her get away," another voice growled. I pressed my back against the cold metal, praying they wouldn't hear the frantic thump of my heartbeat. My hands trembled as I fumbled for my phone in my pocket, but my fingers were slick with sweat, and it slipped. The tiny thud on the ground betrayed me. There! A hand shot out, gripping my arm like a vice. I screamed and kicked, clawing at the man's face. He cursed, tightening his hold, but adrenaline gave me strength. I drove my knee into his stomach, and he staggered back with a grunt. I bolted, this time not looking back. The warehouse loomed like a maze, shadows stretching in every direction. I spotted a narrow gap between two shipping containers and squeezed through, scraping my skin. Finally, I saw my car in the distance, parked under a flickering streetlight. Hope surged in my chest. I sprinted with everything I had left, every muscle burning, every breath like fire. I dove into the driver's seat, slammed the lock, and twisted the ignition. The engine roared to life. Tires screeched as I tore out of the parking lot, the men's shouts fading into the night behind me. But I wasn't safe. Not yet. The image of Daniel handing off that envelope replayed in my mind over and over. My sister was about to marry a criminal, and I was the only one who knew. By the time I reached home, I was shaking so badly I could barely pull the key from the ignition. I stumbled inside, locked the door, and collapsed onto the couch. My hand still clutched the phone I had nearly dropped earlier. That's when I saw it. In the chaos, I had accidentally hit the record button. The entire scene, the handoff, the men's voices, the cash-filled envelope, was captured in perfect detail. I had evidence. Solid, undeniable evidence. For the first time in weeks, I felt a spark of power. Emily had stripped me of dignity. Daniel had laughed in my face. His mother had humiliated me. But now? Now I held the key to their destruction. Still, revenge wasn't simple. I spent the next few days debating what to do. Part of me wanted to march straight to Emily, slam the phone in her face, and watch her perfect little world collapse. But another part whispered, "She won't believe you." She never did. Not when I told her Daniel flirted with me. Not when I warned her about his lies. No, this had to be bigger. Smarter. Public. That's when the idea came to me. If they wanted me to witness their wedding, I would. But not as a silent guest. I would bring the truth to the altar. In the days leading up to the wedding, I played my role perfectly. I sent Emily a message. "I'll be there. I can't wait to see you walk down the aisle." She replied with nothing more than a heart emoji, as if all the hurt between us never happened. Meanwhile, I backed up the video, made copies, and even emailed it to myself. I wasn't going to let Daniel or his thugs silence me. The morning of the wedding arrived like the calm before a storm. The church bells rang, people filled the pews, and Emily glided down the aisle like a queen in white lace. My parents wept with joy, Daniel's family beamed with pride. And me? I sat in the second row, my phone buzzing in my palm like a ticking bomb. The priest began the vows. Daniel's hand tightened around Emily's, his smile confident, smug, as if he'd already won. "Do you, Daniel Brooks, take Emily Morgan?" the priest began. But then the doors at the back of the church burst open. Everyone turned. 2 uniformed police officers marched inside, their boots echoing on the stone floor. My stomach dropped. I hadn't called them. Someone else had. The taller officer's voice boomed across the stunned crowd. "Daniel Brooks, you are under arrest for fraud, money laundering, and conspiracy." Gasps rippled through the room. Emily's bouquet slipped from her hands, scattering roses across the floor. Daniel's face drained of color. But as the officers moved to cuff him, his eyes flicked to me. Rage. Pure, burning rage. And in that instant, I realized something terrifying. If Daniel went down, he was taking me with him. The church was chaos. Guests screamed, mothers wept, and my father pulled my mother close, as if the roof itself might collapse. Daniel's smug smile was gone, replaced with pure, venomous fury. His eyes locked on me as the officers snapped cold steel around his wrists. "I'll destroy you," he hissed under his breath as they dragged him down the aisle. Every muscle in my body tensed. For a split second, I thought he would break free and lunge at me. But the officers shoved him outside, his curses echoing through the stained glass windows. Emily stood frozen at the altar, her veil trembling. She finally turned to me, her eyes blazing, her lips twisted. "You did this," she whispered, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. "You ruined my life." And then she collapsed, sobbing into the arms of Daniel's mother, who shot me a glare that could kill. The very same woman who had once told me I wasn't welcome. This wasn't the victory I imagined. It didn't feel like triumph. It felt like the start of a war. For days after the wedding that never was, the whole city buzzed with gossip. News articles splashed Daniel's mugshot everywhere. Wealthy businessman arrested at his own wedding. The video I had accidentally recorded was now in police custody. Reporters camped outside my parents' house, hungry for details. But inside those walls, there was no celebration. My mother wouldn't look at me. My father, always quiet, seemed torn between pride and shame. And Emily, she vanished. She moved into Daniel's empty condo, refusing my calls, ignoring my texts. Then one night, as I left the hospital after a late nursing shift, I saw it. A black SUV parked across the street. Engine running. Headlights dim. At first, I thought nothing of it. But then the window rolled down, and I caught a glimpse of Daniel's brother, Eric. His gaze followed me like a shadow. My stomach dropped. The next day, I found a note stuffed under my apartment door. Just 6 words, scrawled in black ink. "Snitches don't live long. Watch yourself." My hands shook as I read it. Fear crept into every corner of my life. I started double-checking locks, looking over my shoulder, sleeping with the lights on. But I wasn't going to run. Not this time. Instead, I went to the police. I told them about the SUV, about the note, about my fears. They nodded, wrote it down, and told me to be cautious. That was it. Be cautious? Against a family with money, power, and connections? Against a man like Daniel, who was already making moves from behind bars. I realized then I was on my own. But I wasn't helpless. I still had the original recording saved to a hidden drive, along with new evidence I had started digging into. Daniel wasn't just laundering money. He was tied to something much darker. Offshore accounts. Shell companies. A web of crime that stretched far beyond my sister's broken heart. The more I uncovered, the more dangerous it became. Every search felt like walking deeper into a minefield. And then the mine exploded. It was a Thursday evening. I came home from work, dropped my bag, and went to the kitchen for water. My apartment was quiet, too quiet. I turned on the light and froze. My drawers were open, papers scattered, closet doors ajar. Someone had been here. Panic clawed at my throat as I rushed to the small safe under my bed. I pulled it open. The flash drive, the one with the backup recording, was gone. My knees buckled. My lifeline. My weapon. Stolen. And just as the terror sank in, my phone buzzed with a new message. No name, just an unknown number. It was a video. I hit play, and there was Emily, my baby sister, sitting in a dark room, Mascara streaked down her cheeks. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "Rachel, please stop. They'll kill me if you don't. Please." The video ended abruptly, cutting to black. My hand shook so hard the phone nearly slipped. Emily wasn't siding with Daniel anymore. She was his hostage. And suddenly, my revenge wasn't just about payback. It was about saving my sister's life. The phone slipped from my hand and clattered to the floor. Emily's tear-streaked face burned into my mind. Her voice echoed, "They'll kill me if you don't stop." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My sister, the same girl who had turned her back on me, who let her fiancé's family humiliate me, was now begging me for help. And despite everything, despite the betrayal, despite the years of being treated like nothing, she was still my blood. I had to save her. I grabbed my coat and drove straight to the police station, shoving the phone at the desk sergeant. "They've kidnapped my sister. Look at this." He watched the video, his face tightening.
"Ma'am, we'll need more than this."
There's no proof of when or where this was filmed. Could be staged. Staged. I snapped. My voice cracked with desperation. "That's my sister. She's in danger. Do something." But they only promised to investigate, their tone flat, lifeless. I walked out of that building with more fear than hope. If the police wouldn't save Emily, I would. That night, I sat in my dark apartment, staring at the ceiling. Every nerve in me buzzed like an exposed wire. I knew Daniel's family was behind this. I knew Emily was trapped in their grip. But the question was, why? Why kidnap her when they hated me? Unless Emily wasn't a victim. Unless she was part of it. The thought twisted in my stomach. I remembered the way she looked at me at the engagement. Cold, almost triumphant. I remembered her silence at the door, her refusal to defend me. And the more I thought about it, the more it made sense. What if Emily wasn't just collateral damage? What if she was helping Daniel, playing her role in the family's dirty games? I didn't want to believe it. But deep down, I knew my sister had been slipping further away from me for years. Still, I couldn't risk being wrong. I had to find out the truth. I went back to the evidence I had been gathering. Bank transfers. Hidden accounts. I spent hours digging through Daniel's financial trail, and that's when I saw it. One account in particular stood out. Money was being funneled into it in small, regular amounts. And the name on the account nearly stopped my heart. Emily Morgan. I pushed back from my desk, my body shaking. She wasn't just a pawn. She was on the payroll. That video, the tears, the begging, it could have been a performance. A trap designed to scare me off. Anger boiled through me, so hot I thought my skin would split. She wasn't the helpless little sister I had nearly died for. She wasn't the victim I thought I needed to save. She was one of them. But if she thought her lies would scare me into silence, she underestimated me. The next day, I drove to the condo where she and Daniel had once lived. The building loomed tall, glass reflecting the Houston skyline. I slipped inside, heart hammering, and rode the elevator up to the 12th floor. Her door was locked, but I still had the spare key she gave me years ago, back when we actually trusted each other. My hand trembled as I slid it into the lock and turned. The door creaked open. The condo was dark, curtains drawn tight. I stepped inside slowly, the air heavy, almost suffocating. My shoes crunched on broken glass scattered across the living room floor. And then I saw her.
Emily.
Sitting on the couch. Her hair was wild, makeup smeared, but her eyes were cold. "I told you not to come," she said, her voice low, calm, too calm. My heart pounded. "Emily, what's going on? What have they done to you?" She laughed, a short, bitter laugh that sliced through me. "What they've done to me? Rachel, I chose this. I chose Daniel. I chose his world. You're the one who ruined everything." Her words slammed into me like a blade. The sister I had nearly died for, the girl I protected all my life, was confessing she was part of the plan. I took a step back, shaking my head. No, you're lying. This isn't you." But then she stood, her hands balling into fists. "You should have stayed away, Rachel. You should have died in that accident." My stomach dropped. Before I could move, the condo door burst open. Heavy boots stomped inside. Men in dark coats. Daniel's men. And Emily didn't scream. She didn't run. She just stood there, smiling coldly, as if she had been waiting for them all along.
"Take her," she said.
2 men grabbed me, their grip like iron. I kicked and screamed, but they dragged me toward the door. Emily watched, her arms crossed, her eyes shining with satisfaction. That's when I realized my sister wasn't my enemy's hostage. She was my enemy. And as the men hauled me out of the condo, I knew my nightmare had only just begun. The men dragged me down the condo hallway, my heels scraping the carpet, my arms burning from their grip. I screamed, I kicked, but they didn't flinch. One of them shoved a cloth over my mouth, and everything went black. When I woke up, the air was damp and heavy. My wrists were tied behind a chair, ropes digging into my skin. A single bulb swung above me, casting shadows across cracked cement walls. My head throbbed, my throat dry, but when I lifted my eyes, I froze. Emily. She stood in front of me, flawless in a silk dress, her makeup fresh. Not the broken, crying sister from the video. Not the helpless girl I once believed in. This Emily was composed.
Cold. Smiling.
"Rachel," she said softly, almost lovingly. "Why couldn't you just stay out of it? You always had to play the hero. Always had to prove you were better. Well, look at you now." Her words sliced deeper than the ropes. My own sister. My blood. "Why?" I whispered, voice hoarse. Her smile widened. "Because Daniel gave me a choice. A life of power, money, everything we were denied growing up, or a life of scraping by like you. And you know what, Rachel? I'm done being the poor little girl in your shadow. I chose him." I stared at her, my chest aching. "Emily, I gave up everything for you. I nearly died for you. And I nearly died of being nothing," she snapped. "But not anymore." The door behind her creaked open. Daniel walked in, dressed in a prison-issued jumpsuit. My blood ran cold. He shouldn't have been here. He was supposed to be behind bars. But there he was, smirking like the devil himself. "You really thought a little recording could bring me down?" he sneered. "Sweetheart, prison walls are nothing to a man with money." Emily slid to his side like she belonged there. He kissed her forehead, then turned his gaze on me. "You destroyed my wedding, embarrassed my family, cost me millions, and now you'll pay." My heart pounded against my ribs. Was this it? Was this where my story ended? In a basement, betrayed by my sister, killed by the man she chose? But then, I remembered. The copy. The one thing they didn't know. Before they broke into my apartment, before they stole the flash drive, I had already uploaded the evidence to a cloud server. Not just the video, but everything: bank records, transaction logs, names. And I had set it to auto-send to the FBI if I didn't enter a password every 24 hours. And tonight they had made sure I couldn't. I smiled through the fear. "You've already lost." Daniel's smirk faltered.
"What?"
I leaned forward, my voice steady. "By now, the FBI has everything. Every dirty deal. Every offshore account. They're coming for you. Both of you." Emily's face paled. Daniel's jaw tightened. For the first time, they looked afraid. But fear turned to rage in an instant. Daniel stormed toward me, his fist raised. "I'll kill you before they ever touch me." The sound of boots echoed outside.
Shouts.
A battering ram slammed against the basement door. "FBI. Hands where we can see them." The room erupted in chaos. Daniel spun. Emily screamed. The men pulled their guns, but it was too late. The door burst open, agents flooding the room, weapons drawn. Shots rang out, concrete chipped, bodies fell. When it was over, Daniel lay face down, handcuffed, cursing. Emily was pinned to the wall, her perfect hair falling into her face, her eyes wide with fury. And me? An agent rushed to my side, cutting the ropes, pulling me to my feet. "You're safe now," he said. Safe. The word felt strange. I turned to look at Emily one last time. My sister. My betrayer. Her glare was filled with hatred, but beneath it, I saw something else. Fear. The kind of fear that comes when you realize the life you chose is about to collapse. As they dragged her past me, she hissed, "This isn't over, Rachel." But deep down, I knew it was, because I had already won. Weeks later, the trials began. Daniel and Emily faced charges that would lock them away for decades: fraud, money laundering, conspiracy. My testimonies sealed their fate. The courtroom gasped when I revealed everything: the betrayal, the kidnapping, the crimes. The judge's gavel came down, and just like that, justice was mine. I walked out of that courtroom into the Texas sun, breathing free air, my heart lighter than it had been in years. I had lost a sister, but I had reclaimed myself. And if I learned anything from this nightmare, it was this: family doesn't always mean love. Sometimes, family is the sharpest knife in your back. But even the deepest cut can be answered with one thing: revenge.